Have you ever you can't explain, but you just know something to be absolutely true. And no matter how somebody may try and tell you it's not, it doesn't matter. You just know that that's it. No changing, no question, no doubt.
This is A Joyful Rebellion, the podcast that explores that moment you realize the life and success you worked so hard to create didn't come with all the fulfillment you thought it would. I'm your host, James Walters, and I want you to be the author of your own story. Each week, I connect with people who inspire bold answers to the question, what do I do now to create a life I love? If you're ready to start answering that question for yourself, you're in the right place. So let's start a joyful rebellion. Have you ever had a hunch so strong it felt like more than just a feeling? My guest today, Anna Quigley, is a coach, speaker, and intuition specialist who helps people, especially women in midlife, tune into the quiet voice they've been trained to ignore. What started as a skeptic's experiment with gut feelings turned into a life-defining journey, guiding her out of toxic jobs, through massive life changes, and into her true calling. In this conversation, Anna shares how intuition actually works, the difference between emotional reactions and inner guidance, and how to make space for clarity in a noisy world. We talk about Inklings, quiet rebellion, and how your second act can be the most powerful yet if you're willing to listen. If something in you knows there's more to life, but you're not sure where to begin, this episode is your invitation to tune in. Anna Quigley, thank you for being here on A Joyful Rebellion today.
Oh, I joyfully appreciate the opportunity.
It's going to be fun because we're talking about something that's not really tangible to most people, and that is intuition. And some folks who have been on this journey with me on A Joyful Rebellion for a while, they're going to be like, okay, James, where are you going with this? And I want to talk to you because you've done a lot of work around this and you help people understand the power of intuition and how it's not just some woo-woo thing. So tell me a little bit about your background, how you got into the work that you do and how you help people.
Long story. I'll make it short. I think my awareness came probably in my late 20s, mid to late 20s, when I really started doing some spiritual seeking, some spiritual work. And just kind of always had that feeling, I'm here for a reason. I don't know what it is. I'm not quite sure where it is. And I've had that longing really throughout my life, trying to figure out what my unique purpose is. And I fully believe that every one of us is here for a particular reason. Big, small, there's no difference. It's whatever that is that we have to give. Unfortunately, a lot of times we don't think what we have and what our skills are is really that important. You know, we're not saving the world, but small ripples in the pond can just make a huge difference. And so I started exploring that, and I started learning about and understanding, hearing about intuition. And I'm like, well, yeah, I love the idea of that, but I don't know, is it real? Is it real, or is it just kind of a woo-woo thing? And I tested it. I just took a silly test because I am a little bit skeptical and I like empirical evidence, so I do the science behind it. And I took something very trivial, a shopping experience. I wanted a particular item and okay, intuition. Where do I find this? And I got the little voice and I'm okay, I know this shop, it's across town. Well, it wasn't good enough for me. So I stopped at every place in between that might possibly have it, and nobody did. And I finally got to the shop that my intuition had said they'll have it. And they didn't. I looked twice. They didn't. And as I'm walking out the door, that little voice in my head that has become my best friend, really, said, just ask. And I'm like, why? That's silly. I've already looked twice. They're just going to tell me if it's not on the floor, we don't have it. And I took another step and it was like, come on, just ask. And I thought, all right, this is a test. Let's take the test all the way through. So I walked up to the counter, showed the picture of exactly what I wanted to the clerk. She didn't miss a beat. She goes, oh yeah, that came in this morning. We just haven't had a chance to put it out. And I'm like, I think there's something to
Interesting.
this. So that was the first of my really, let's explore this. And since then, intuition has guided me into jobs that didn't seem like they would be the right jobs. They've guided me out of relationships that really could have been disastrous. And listening to my intuition helps me run my errands. It streamlines my life in so many different ways. So I realized after a period of time that this really was my passion. The one that I'd been looking for is to do this. So I started interviewing people several years ago about how they found their life purpose. And it was usually
Okay.
through listening to their intuition. So I've been gathering stories, and still am, from people who've had this experience. My last big intuition in a health situation was to leave a job that had become toxic. I loved it. I'd been in it for like 9.5 years. Most of it I loved. The people, most of them I loved. But it was, no, do something else. So I took some time off, and I got really clear that this is my time. It's my time to give back and to share this. So I started a coaching business to help people, particularly midlife and beyond, because I think there comes a point, as you mentioned earlier, in our lives where we go, yeah, we've done everything we were told we should do. We got the job and the family, and we're doing that, and we're busy, but you just feel that something else. It's an inkling, a calling. It's so intangible. It's really hard to explain, but we all know it, I think. We've all had that sense at one time or another in our lives that there's something more for us, whether we can define it or know what it is. But that's what I help people with, is helping them to clarify, first of all, what that is, how to figure it out, and then how to bring that to reality.
That folds really great into the direction I wanted to head, because I know in some of your stuff you say that midlife crises aren't necessarily a crisis, it's a calling.
It's a calling.
And is that your intuition saying, hey, you've been really good and obedient, did what the world told you to do.
Yeah.
Now it's your time. Now it's time to figure out, you may have known this when you were a little kid and you just haven't acted on it yet, but hey, look, you're in the middle of this whole adventure called life. If you make it that far, it's time to go. It's time to act.
I love that you said you may have had it since a kid. I have a theory. It's not proven, but I think we all know by the time we're in high school, or at some point in high school, there's something that just triggers us, that we just feel really strongly about. Oftentimes, it's not very practical. How am I going to make a living doing it? I think that's the case with a lot of artists. People in the creative field, it's, you're never going to make a living. You're a philosophy major. Okay, what are you going to do with that? You get a job as a therapist, or you do something else. And I also believe there are multiple purposes in our life, because there is a calling to have a family and to create that environment. But kids are out of the house, or you've had this nice career and you feel satisfied until you don't. Until it's like, well, that's good. I've already done that. I've been there. I've done that, as you say. And now what? What's next? And I fully believe the second half of life can be the most amazing and the most dramatic and the most personal. Because now with women particularly, it's about taking care of everybody else. And so often women get kind of lost themselves, or just kind of, they don't have the focus on what it is that they want to do. And that's not a criticism. There's nothing wrong with that. That's an important part of our lives. But midlife is when that starts waking up again, that, okay, who am I? And what is it that I'm here to do? And what is it I'm here to share? And this goes for men too. I don't mean to exclude that. My focus, obviously, because I am a woman and I've been through these periods, particularly at midlife, making radical changes because of my intuition. So,
Yeah, when it comes to intuition, when it comes to the people that you help, your clients, what is kind of the thing that gets them to you when they see something that you've written, or when they see some of your work, or maybe even some of the testimonials from past clients, and they think, oh, I see myself in that circumstance, and then they reach out, like, what do they have in common?
I'm also a speaker, so I will speak to either virtual or to groups locally. I'm in the San Diego area, but I'll go anywhere. to talk about this, but they all kind of have that sense of, it's almost like there's just this opening that comes at some point in our lives, and it's calling to be filled, whatever that is. It's an inkling, it's a feeling, it's a dissatisfaction, a little bit of unfulfillment, even though their lives may have been fantastic and great. But that's the commonality. It's like we're ready for something else, but we're just not clear what it is, or even where to begin. Where do we start creating a whole new life?
Yeah, and that's the rebellion part, because a lot of times you don't have to necessarily leave everything behind. You just have to start in a different direction. And that can be really scary.
It can be very scary. And it takes a leap of faith. It truly does. But you're right, you don't have to leave everything behind. It's not like you have to leave a marriage or be estranged from friends and family or anything else. It may require moving to another state, which is one thing I did during my period. But it can be a radical shift. It can be a small shift, but that makes radical changes in your life.
Are people who are really tuned into their intuition, are there things they have in common? Like if you meet someone out on the street and you strike up a conversation, let's say in the grocery store with someone, and they start talking to you, are there things you can pick up on where you say, oh, this person obviously has a really strong connection with their intuition versus someone who doesn't?
One of the things that is also a tool to use to get more in touch with it, but people that tend to either meditate or know how to step away from the chaos. It's like, if you think of life as a hurricane, they're in the eye of the hurricane. They know how to get in that calm space, despite all the crazy stuff that goes on in our life and all of the things. They've found a way to find that sweet spot, that spot where they have even 2 minutes at a time to just be quiet, to be still, because it takes practice learning to listen to those messages that come to us. So that's a key. And most of the time, it could be meditation, it could be yoga, it could be getting out in nature. Water is fabulous, spending time in water, just floating in a pool or swimming in the ocean or things like that. Really, it's tuning off or turning the channel, the volume down on the rational mind and giving the intuitive signals the opportunity to kind of come through. So you need that. A little bit of quiet space really helps. That's probably the biggest commonality.
So what I'm reading between the lines here is that our current world and society is not exactly optimized for fertilizing and fostering intuition. It basically, our environment does everything possible to shut down intuition.
And bless our rational minds, because they keep the trains on time, you know? They keep us functioning and they keep all of that moving, but the rational mind can be a bully because its job is to, okay, we're going to keep everything straight and manage and keep you safe and we're going to do all of this. But it's louder than our intuition until we start learning to recognize how our intuition speaks to us and calls to us. It becomes easier to kind of turn down the volume on the rational mind and let that volume increase on listening to the ways intuition comes through us and comes to us.
If you had to explain the difference between making a decision or processing information based on intuition versus making an emotional decision or a decision just based on how you feel, are those really different, and how?
They can be, and that's a good discernment.
It's like when someone says, I'm sorry I yelled at you, I was hungry.
Yeah, the biology of us. If you're angry, you're never going to get clear on that. You're going to be reacting to whatever's going on with that. If you're emotionally connected to an issue or a problem and you have to be right, you're in that, I'm right, I need to be right. Those strong emotional ties that we have, it's not conducive to having intuition really guide. Again, it's a different energy. It's a different frequency, if you will, when we're coming from hunger or when we're coming from, I'm tired. You know, when you're tired, it's a little, you're focused on other things, fueling and rest and getting out of whatever the environment is that's exhausting and that's making you tired. Again, it makes it harder to pay attention. So honor that. We have to honor that and respect that. But this is where the trick comes to finding time when you can step away from those, getting in the eye of the tornado, where you're not immediately involved in or immersed in that chaos, that anger, the hunger, the tiredness, all those things that we experience every day.
So it sounds like intuition thrives best with some space
Yeah.
and some calm.
Some space and some calm. I heard a lecture from a Nobel Prize winning scientist that's here in the area where I am. And he was talking about, he'd just been awarded this prize. He's brilliant and amazing and does this great work. And he was talking about his process. And one of the students said, well, okay, it really takes a lot of hard work. We understand this. This is true. And he kind of smiled. And he said, well, yeah, it takes hard work. But he said, to be honest, I get most of my ideas when I'm running around in Torrey Pines State Park. He got most of his ideas for his Nobel Prize winning things, his patents, when he was in that space.
Mm-hmm.
If he were in the chaos of every day, if he was cranky or tired or doing that, it would have been harder for that message to come through. So silence, space, stepping away, even for a minute or two, starts that process where you start listening. But it takes practice.
And this just from my own experience and perspective, it's easy to think that intuition can be clouded by how you feel. And it sounds like it can, because if you're in a situation that makes you feel overwhelmed, or if you're in a situation that makes you feel angry, all of your energy and focus is on whatever that is. It doesn't give you the clarity. And it sounds like intuition just sort of bubbles up in that clarity if you create the right conditions for it.
Yeah, and the more familiar you get with it, the easier you become at recognizing when intuition is speaking. It gets a little louder because you're learning to recognize it, so it's easier to kind of tune off those other emotions that may be influencing. Can I tell a tale on myself that may give an example of this? I had just had a wonderful acupuncture session.
Okay.
And I was in this peaceful, blissful zone, that quiet space. And driving home, I have an option of taking the freeway or what I call the back road, which is kind of by a golf course and up a windy hill. And eventually I end up on the freeway, but it's less time on the freeway. And I'm like, no, I'm taking the back road. I just want to chill and really enjoy this feeling. I got a block from the freeway that I could take on from the on-ramp. And my voice is like, take the freeway. Well, it kind of startled me because I was so relaxed and so in this kind of meditative state that I'm like, what? No, I'm taking this road. That's what I want. So the rational mind's kicking in. So I ignored it and I went past. I didn't get a block and a half past. And again, turn around, take the freeway. Well, I hate double backing. That's for one. And now, so that's the bully, the rational mind's being a bully. Turn around. Well, that was my intuition actually being more of a bully. Turn around, take the freeway. And I'm like, no. The rational mind's like, no, we had a plan. No, we had a plan. We're going to take this way. It's going to be relaxing. So twice I ignored my guidance, my inner guidance, my GPS, as I call it, my internal GPS. Or God positioning system. I use those terms both. And I turned a corner and there I was stuck in road construction for about 30 minutes. I laughed because I know better and I knew what to do and I didn't listen, not just once, but I didn't listen twice. But I realized that's such a perfect example because it shows that when we do listen to intuition, had I taken the freeway, odds are I would have gotten home smoothly, effortlessly. I would have gotten home half an hour sooner, and I never would have known what I avoided. You don't. Very often when we listen to intuition, we don't know why we're guided to turn right or turn left, or sometimes we'll meet someone that we've been wanting to talk to or find a great restaurant or have some amazing thing happen, but it's usually quiet. It's usually protecting us. It's usually keeping us from being stuck in traffic. I mean, it wasn't like I was going to be in an accident, but it was making my life simpler. It'll guide me through errands. Oh, wait, don't, I'll be out the door. Don't forget, you got to check this first. And that saves me a trip someplace. It's not silly and they're not little, but it can be small events, but it can just help in so many simple ways, major and small.
Yeah. What are some fun stories when you started working with clients and you started helping them understand how to cultivate their intuition. And the feedback you got from that, what were some of the first where you were like, oh, yeah, this is a thing. This is a lot of fun to see the results?
It can be fun. A lot of it is surprising. They're surprised that it's actually guiding. I had one client who was like, I'm looking for a job, but I really want something special, something great. I need to make money. I have to get some income coming in. But they were constantly called to, this job looks kind of okay and it might be a good interim, but then they ignored it and then it showed up again. And just like I did with the shopping, just ask, just go. You're being called a little bit to it. It may be nothing, it may not. And ended up taking the job. And within, I think it was a month or so, they realized that the job the manager had talked about was really 5 times bigger and more.
Oh.
And it ended up being one of her best jobs and more fulfilling and much more to it. And it was that's great money, and didn't realize that it wasn't just a base, it was a base and commission. And there were all kinds of little things that popped up. And it's like, wow. And it was something that she almost didn't do, almost missed. It didn't look like it was going to be the job. But the intuition was like, no, just check it out. Just keep going. And it was like, well, all right, I'll take it. And she figured she'd take it. And she could always keep looking for another job. But that didn't happen. I think she was there like 8 years.
Okay. Yeah. So intuition told her to dig a little deeper, just keep going, don't dismiss it. And how does that work when you get a client who they want it, but they just don't trust themselves enough to trust their intuition? Is that what it comes down to?
Learning to listen to your intuition is a skill. And like any skill, the more you practice, the more you work with it, the more comfortable you get, the more you begin to trust it. One of my teachers was like, it's like getting to the point where you recognize a good friend's voice on the phone. It's like, oh, okay, that's my intuition. And when you have experience of actually listening to it and seeing the results that happen, it becomes easier. That's one of the things that I offer, and I'd love to offer to any of your audience. I suggest and I give my clients a tracking sheet to start with. And just start anytime you get these little inklings, and we can talk about how intuition comes. It's not just that little voice. It comes in so many ways. But just start noting it. Okay, when did it come? What was it? Did it come through that little voice? Did it come through that gut feeling that I think we all know? It could be chills that it's something great, or just and this is not the place for me or the person for me to be interacting with. So know which that is. And did something happen? Then maybe nothing happened, but that's, as I said, often the case. So tracking it, I think, is a really good tool. I like that methodology because it's evidence. It gives us evidence. Oh yeah, that happened, because we forget. It happens one time and you don't think about it, and then it happens again 2 days later and you've already forgotten about the one. So writing it down is a really effective tool to start. Oh yeah, that's right. When that happened, that good thing happened, or I got to work earlier than I thought, or whatever that is. So it's a good first tool if you're not familiar.
What are some of the other ways that intuition presents itself without being like a voice you hear? Is it things that keep coming up for you?
It can be. Can I go a little science nerdy here?
Oh, I love science nerdy. Please.
I do too. Some of this was really interesting when I was doing my research. As humans, we receive about 11 million bits of information every second. Every second. Visual, auditory, tactile, all of that. And only 1% of it is picked up by the brain. That really surprised me. The rest of it's picked up by our senses. And when you start understanding intuition, it makes total sense. Everything in our body speaks to everything else in the body chemically. So it's all talking to each other. And like the gut, that area that intuition, it really speaks. And it's really easy for us. I think that's the most commonly recognized way intuition speaks, is those gut feelings. Yes, it feels good. It doesn't. Chills in the body. The gut is actually considered the second brain. Scientifically, they refer to it as the second brain. So intuition comes through our senses. Clairvoyance through our eyes, not seeing dead people necessarily. That's another thing. And let's say anytime you're thinking about buying a new car, I think we've all gone through this, is when you're, okay, I want a Mazda or I want a BMW or whatever car you want. All of a sudden, especially if you have a color in mind, that's the only car you see when you're driving around. Right?
Yeah.
Everywhere
Here's
you
the
go,
thing.
oh yeah, that's the one I want. And it just keeps reinforcing that that's where you want. It could be seeing a billboard for something. I want to take a vacation, but I don't know where to go. And every billboard, every magazine you open up has got an ad for Hawaii or a discount airfare for Hawaii. It comes in little ways like that, clairvoyance, clairaudience, that little voice. And sometimes, literally, it'll sound like there's another person talking to me, which sounds a little woo-woo, but it's just can also be some of that, just kind of knowing. But I also pay attention when 2 or 3 people tell me about a book that they've read or a movie they've seen or a place they've been, particularly when it comes in close proximity and within this short amount of time, a couple of days. I pay attention because there's something in that for me, whatever that is. It could be just some information that I needed. It could be a story that's impactful for me. But I listen to those cues and clues as well. Have you ever you can't explain, but you just know something to be absolutely true? And no matter how somebody may try and tell you it's not, it doesn't matter. You're absolute. You just know that that's it. No changing, no question, no doubt.
Yeah, I've had that before.
Yeah. And in science, they actually, I think it was Gladwell, if I have his name right, coined the term thin slicing. And I don't know why or how that came, but that knowing, that absolute knowing with absolutely no evidence or no way to explain how you know, but it's clear, absolute knowing. So that's clear cognizance. And that too comes in so many different ways. And then the gut feeling. So all of these, and intuition can come to you in every one of those ways at different times. There may be one particular way that you're more attuned to, that it seems like that's the primary way. But when you start recognizing and paying attention, tracking, if you will, you can see those patterns and start recognizing them all.
For someone who is trying on their intuition, maybe they've lived a life of distraction and they're on the devices and they're constant chaos all around. And now they want to slow down a little bit. They want to cultivate some quiet. They want to create a little bit of peace to make space for their intuition. How does a person like that, who doesn't maybe have a lot of experience, how do they tell the difference between intuition and influence? Because they could interpret, oh, I've seen 5 billboards about Hawaii. People really want me to go to Hawaii, and not feel like, oh, well, maybe I should try Hawaii for this vacation because these things keep coming up for me. How do they make that distinction?
If they've been thinking about a vacation and haven't been clear on where to go, I would start exploring the possibility of going to Hawaii. If not, why are they noticing that? There may be something around that area. Maybe they're seeing the sign in one particular place on the road that they've never really paid attention to. It could be, oh, there's something in that general area. But it's always our choice. So if you're not planning a vacation and you see Hawaii, well, maybe it's time that you do. Maybe you need a vacation. I mean, these aren't absolutes, and we always have control. It's always our choice to listen, to not listen, and we have to use our own discernment. And that comes too with practice. It's like, does this have a meaning for me? Is there something for me to pay attention to in this? And there may be, and sometimes there's not. It could be a projection of other people.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Hawaii, I'm going here, and then you're seeing signs to Hawaii. It doesn't mean that's for you. That could be influence from people around you. So maybe, hey, I saw a great deal in Hawaii. Did you check this airfare out? And that's their help.
Yeah.
Your intuitive message, and they get a better airfare for their vacation.
We've all heard the stories about people who say they should have listened to their intuition. And there are lots of stories like that where it would have kept them out of danger or accidents or whatever the case. Have you ever come across anything that was the opposite of that, where someone said, oh, I went with my gut and that did not work out like I hoped?
I have lots of stories about the other, where they didn't listen to one client ended up in a ditch in his motorcycle for 8 hours, after not listening. So, yeah. In my own experience, when I listen to my intuition, it's never been anything less than neutral. Where had I taken the freeway that one time, I would have gotten home. It would have been fine. There wouldn't have been any event. That's my experience. I spoke with someone else who's interviewed other people. Oh, no, people have had bad experiences. Personally, I never have. I can't speak for everyone in that regard, but I really believe that intuition isn't guiding us to danger. It's not guiding us to bad experiences. That's not our intuition. Our intuition is built in. We'll get a little woo-woo, a little spiritual. It's divine guidance. We're born with it, like every part of our body. It's built into all of us, whether we think we have it or we don't have it. It's whether we use it or not.
Yeah.
So it's such a great tool. But yeah, personally, no. Personally, never.
Gotcha. And you've been coaching, you said, for the past 2 decades. And when you work with women who are in their midlife journey, they're trying to figure out what that second half of life looks like. What does it look like? What's a typical conversation? How does that usually start? How do they seek you out? And what is it they're looking for when they seek you out?
I'm working with a young woman now, younger than midlife, but still in that situation where she's just not satisfied in her job and she wants to figure out what's next. We're still in process with that, but there are a number of things we have talked about. One thing I suggest too is to look back again at what did you love when you were young? What were the things that you just had fun with, that you just did for fun, that came easily? For women particularly, again, I'm not being stereotyping, but I have found for women particularly, things that come easy to us that are just kind of so natural, we don't pay attention to them. And we tend to value them less. Because if you work hard, those are the important things, and you accomplish things, that's the important. But if it just comes effortlessly, we tend not to pay as much attention or give it as much value. So we start looking at that. What were those things that you loved to do when you were younger? Could be art, could be design, it could be anything. I mean, not science, that maybe you didn't go into science because it didn't seem rational, or you couldn't go to college to study it, but you could still do things with that. So we start with exploring that. In this particular client, she's looking at doing some aptitude testing, really getting clear on what her innate abilities are. In my own case, at one point, I had read a book by Sarah Richardson, and I loved this. I use this with some of my clients too. She suggested if you're not clear on what you want to do, ask your friends and your family, the people that really know you. And this ties in with that not really valuing what you're good at. Ask your friends and your family 2 questions. First one was, what do you think I love? What do you think I really love? Yeah. And the second one is the linchpin for me. What do you think I'm good at? What am I really good at? And it can be surprising. It can be surprising what comes back.
I would imagine. Yeah.
When I did it, everybody knew I loved to travel. So, what do you love? Okay, that was a given. But what do you think I love? I had a couple of friends and family say, oh, you're so good at accessorizing and decorating your house. And I so totally dismissed it. I'm like, thank you. So, guilty of my own things here. I'm like, thank you. That's really kind, but give me something I can use.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't see how that could be of value. But I was in a transition, one of several, and I was thinking about starting an import business and ultimately decided to do that. Took off and went to India, and every store, every street vendor, every shop that had handbags and scarves and jewelry and decorative accessories and small furniture, I would make a beeline to. And it took a few times when the light bulb went on, I go, that's how this ties in. Okay. And that's what I ended up importing, were products like that, because I love them. I had an affinity for them. I was able to help other people use them and do that. So okay, this is how that works.
That's what it is. Okay.
Subtle cues, yeah. So, and we don't always see what we're good at. We don't see it in the same way as people that are close to us. So it's an important question. I think it's a great question, even if you already are listening to your intuition. It's really kind of interesting to get perspective from people that know us well as to really who we are, what we're good at.
Outside of trying to create that space for intuition, that quiet, that calm, that's the necessary environment for it. Besides meditation, what are some ways that you get your clients to create that?
It can be tough, especially if someone's in a busy job, a hectic job. They go home, there's family to take care of. Again, I'll address kind of women, but men have the same challenges in different ways. When you drive home, when you get home, stay in your car for 2 minutes. Sit in your car. Don't go in the house. Just sit quietly in the car, in the garage, wherever on the driveway, and just give yourself 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, whatever you feel comfortable with, and just kind of no radio, no checking your email on the phone, just time to be quiet. It's an easy way to sneak in some time without kids or the wife or the husband needing to move on to the next thing. It's an easy way to steal time. Being in nature is huge. The water. I have so many examples, oh my gosh, of people who have come up with, well, Einstein was one, ideas in the bathtub. The theory of disbursement, water disbursement. He came up with that idea while he was in the bathtub. He realized, oh, when I get in the bathtub, the water goes up. And he used that to how to be able to measure things. So that in the bathtub. John Lennon, Woody Allen, I have a list of like 10 people that I've found actually have used relaxing in water. Again, it's a tool to turn off and lower the volume on the rational mind. When you're floating in the water, you're swimming in a pool, you're hiking a trail where there really aren't people, you've got birds and nature, and it can be a 5-minute walk around your neighborhood. It's learning to steal those moments, and I hate to use the word steal, but in reality, a lot of times that's what it is. It's like, I'm going away for 2 minutes, just kids, don't follow me to the bathroom. Or animals, they do the same thing. Just finding a moment here or there where you can do that. It's not possible in reality for all of us to just go sit and meditate. I was in one of my major transition modes at one time. My whole life seemed like it was imploding, this perfect life. Just all of a sudden, my job ended due to industry things. I ended up in a lawsuit with my co-owner of the building, and I'm like, what do I do? And I'm like, okay, I got to go sit on the mountain and meditate. Well, a day and a half later, my cousin called and said, hey, I'm going to India to an ashram. You want to go? Well, the ashram happened to be on the top of a mountain. So it was a pretty clear sign. Instead of the rational mind saying, stay home, deal with the attorneys, find another job, it was like, no, I'm heading to India. Now, not everybody can do that. Nobody needs to do that. It just happened to be a really fabulous thing for me. And I came back with clarity, not for the whole picture, because I don't think many of us get to see the big picture. We get 15 minutes in front of us, 3 feet in front of us. You get the next step. That's the act of faith, too. That's listening and going, okay, I know to go this, I'm clear, this is the next step. And then the next, you have to ask then and get clear on what that next step is. So that was a pretty big one for me.
That's really great insight. And is there anything we haven't talked about that you think is important for people to hear about intuition, about trusting and developing their own intuition?
Listen to those longings. I mean, we've covered a lot, but listen to those little inklings, urges. If you walk by something and it catches your attention, and give it a second. Go, why am I attracted to that? What is it about that? Either the situation, the location, whatever it is that seems to catch your attention. So just pay attention to those. It doesn't mean that it's a major thing that is going to change your life, but it's a good way to start, again, practicing and start listening and seeing what you're being guided to do. It comes in so many ways at so many different times, unexpectedly. That's the joyful part, right, of the rebellion.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, yeah, come to India and sit on a mountaintop with me. I'm going, okay, that's a sign for sure.
Yeah.
I'm taking that, not saying no to that, but they don't often come that clearly.
Yeah. We need to prepare ourselves for when it does, and dialing down all the chaos of everyday life sounds like one of those ways to do it.
And that's the challenge, but it's doable, and everyone can do it. Everyone can do it. I know that for certain.
Well, that's great advice right there, Anna. Thank you so much for sharing everything you did about intuition today. I've never had a conversation like this. It's fun to talk about something that everyone has and not everyone uses maybe to its full effect. And it's hard to know if you have, right? Because it's one of those things you have to experiment like you did.
And I challenge your listeners to think back at transitional moments in their life. What were the catalysts for that? Did a job just happen to pop up, or all of a sudden you had to move out of state? Think back at those key moments when you've had transitions in your life or shifts, big or small, and see if there's a little something that might have been a sign of intuition. So whether we recognize them or not, it's guiding us. It's just the more we listen to it and pay attention to it, the easier and the more often we get guided. And it can be big stuff, as I said, or it can just help streamline our everyday life, simplify life. What true doesn't need that?
Yeah, that would be helpful. Anna, thank you so much for being here on A Joyful Rebellion today. It was wonderful having this conversation. Thank you for being here and hanging with me till the end. I want to encourage you to try one tiny act of joyful rebellion this week, and that is to say no to one thing that drains you, just one. Then use that space for something wildly ordinary that makes you feel alive. And that's how it starts. Small moves can lead to big destinations. Tell me what you try. I'd love to hear, and I'll be right here next week when you're ready for more.